Hey, GLP-1 plus size community. Before we jump into the podcast, please take the time to leave us a 5-star review on whatever audio platform you're listening to the podcast on. Share your story and how the podcast has helped you. This will help us get referred up in the audio platform so that we can reach more people that need our help, our support, and guidance from our doctors. Help us get loud and change things.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault. You want to know a hack to get insurance to cover your GLP-1 prescriptions? Here's the truth. Most people get denied the first time that they try, and insurance companies are betting that you're just going to give up. But you do have rights, and you can appeal not just once, but multiple times. The problem is the process is confusing and it's time consuming, and a lot of providers just don't have the bandwidth to be able to fight through it with you. So that's why I partnered with Claimable. It's an easy-to-use tool that helps you build expert-backed appeals proven to work. So don't give up on your shot at coverage. Exhaust your appeals. Go to getclaimable.com/plussides to learn more and use code PLUSSIDES with a Z to save.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper, with results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster, confidence higher, price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
Welcome to the
Hey,
Plus
welcome.
Sides Podcast. How you doing
Hey
there?
there. Oh, hey, girl. Hey.
Hey. Listen, you look like
Hey.
you're not at home. Where's the office? I don't see prints behind you. I don't see recording equipment.
Don't. No DJ equipment, no records.
No
I see
records.
No. I am in the great state of Nebraska.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
for a training.
where they call it Mounjaro?
Where they call it Mounjaro.
Oh yeah.
So, Nebraska's accent is not that thick.
How thick
You get like the fur and the
So is it Mounjaro?
Like, when you go up further north to South Dakota, it's really, yeah.
Why did that make me laugh so hard?
The
Further
north.
north?
You go further north. Yeah.
Oh,
Nebraska
I
gets
forget
kind of
that.
like this Ohio. Yeah, I'm not doing it any justice. Nebraska. Fancy people in Omaha.
Okay. Okay. All right.
Anyway,
Get it together, Kim. Okay, so welcome. We're so glad to have you for our lovely podcast this evening. I want to make sure we do quick intros, tell everybody who we are. If you are new here, if you are not new here and you're one of our loyal listeners who listens to us every single week, thousands and thousands of you.
we thank
love
you. We thank you so
This
much.
is your cue to fast forward.
Thank
So you
you.
don't have to listen to our intros.
But
But
thank you.
this is the Plus Sides Podcast, and we are an education and advocacy podcast, and we focus on educating around the disease, really, of obesity, type 2 diabetes, and really any kind of metabolic disorder. We focus on giving you all the information you need so you can advocate for your health and so you have community, because these are chronic diseases, right? There's no cure for them. We only have treatments, and we're going to need each other. So we're trying to make sure that you always have a place to come back to whenever you just feel that kind of obsessed and you just want to come and hang out with
Yeah,
us and
I'm here for it.
nerd out and all that, you know?
I'm here for it. Yep.
Yeah, me too. And my name's Kim. I'm an obesity care advocate. And I'm so glad to have you here. And I have been on these medicines for over 3 years. I lost 110 pounds. And since perimenopause, I kind of bounce around within a 10, 20-pound radius. That it sucks. By the way, if anybody didn't tell you, perimenopause sucks. But luckily, Kat went through it first, or started going through it first.
What's your guinea
So
pig?
she helped me. And now my weight's starting to stabilize again. I'm feeling a lot better.
Your
Which is
face
great.
looks smaller.
Yeah, because but you know what's crazy, Kat, is I've lost maybe 10 of the 20 that I gained, right? And I've been exercising, but I haven't changed that much. And I'm just like shrinking, like inches.
This is a really good topic that I brought up that we can talk with our doctor
We
about.
can talk to the doctor about that. Like, what's up with that? I hope it's in the questions. If not, you're in charge. Because I'll forget. All right, tell us who you are. Tell me what you do, Kat.
I am Kat Carter. I do plus size fitness, right? I am still in a big body. I've lost about 80 to 90 pounds. I have not stood on the scale for a little while, but I know I have been finally moving the scale down as well after being on HRT. But I started the Mounjaros. That's the only the Tirzepatide that I've been on since 2022. We're OGs in this community.
We're OGs.
And
we're summer 22.
I know right now in this community, we're all about that Retta. I want 50 milligram Mounjaro, and I'm being facetious, but
I know,
baby.
Because it's really good for you. I can't take those high doses. I can if I split them up on compound, which is a very important topic that we are going to talk about today, because we are also, even though we want access and want everybody $25 for the medicine,
right?
At the end of the day, guys, we're going to need compound. We got to talk all about that, and we're going to have some conversations.
It's here because, of necessity. There's so much going on.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah.
Let's talk about it. What do you say?
Let's talk about
yapping. Let our guests yap, enough of us.
Let's do it.
Let's invite in our community guest tonight. Welcome in, Sabina from GLP Winner. What you doing? How you doing? What you hear? Hi.
Hey. Thanks so much for having me.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to you. I feel like I started to listen to you a year plus ago, 2 years. I don't remember whenever you started. I've listened to the show on and off.
Aww. Yeah, that's what's interesting about it, like the on and off piece, because like you kind of get off and you're like, oh, that sounds interesting, and you kind of pop back in, and that happens to us a lot. So we have like people from the beginning. We have hundreds of new people all the time. It's so awesome because we get to meet new people.
Depends on who we are talking about, who we're talking to, what we're talking about,
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And I think it's like, I think Kat and I started in the beginning. So, like we thought it was a weight loss journey. We were like, oh, okay. Like it's weight loss and it's important and we need more help losing weight because blah, blah, blah. And then like, I guess it was about a year in, we were like, oh shit, this didn't have anything to do with weight.
It's way more than that. Yeah.
It's about health gain. It's a way, like the weight is just a symptom, And so once we started doing that, then we kind of expanded and talking about all this stuff. So I hope you've been liking it.
I have. And I agree. The longer I'm here, it has nothing to do with weight, actually.
Yeah, nothing. This is crazy, right?
Weight is just the part you see.
I know, right? Well, I want to hear your community story, what Kat and I do when our community members are talking, because we are chatty Cathys. And her name is actually Kathy, a chatty Kimmy, that we're going to go on mute and let you take the space.
Muted right now.
Okay. So I'm Sabina. Most people in the community know me because I do TikToks and general social stuff, but I also created a tool called GLP Winner that helps people compare providers. So we are trying to be like Kayak for GLP-1, basically. And you think about all the options that are online. A lot of people can perceive that some of them are legitimate, some of them aren't. But even just seeing prices, oftentimes telehealth companies will have you spend 10 minutes giving your name, email, phone number just to see a price. And we deserve better. So we try to make pricing transparent. We show reviews. If it's a compounded option, we show you what compounding pharmacy it goes to. And you can see reviews for the compounding pharmacy, and we try to like check licensing and all of that in one place. So check out GLP Winner if you're in the market. But I started it because I was a patient myself and I lost weight. And so I guess I can start at the beginning, which is that I wasn't a bigger kid, right? I was not a bigger kid. I was healthy to skinny, and I grew up with a lot of childhood trauma, a really rough home situation. And in high school, actually, like, I wasn't eating enough. I was probably anorexic. And it was like I couldn't control anything, but I could control food to some degree. And then it's also like the kitchen is a public place in your household. So you want to avoid public places in your household if your house sucks. So that was the case in high school. And then I started to gain weight kind of after that, like 19, 20, early 20s, I started to put on the weight. And it felt like, now I understand that my eating disorder had like flipped from not eating to binge eating disorder, where I was using food to cope. But I always had some affinity for food. I always had some attachment to food of like emotional fulfillment. You know, when you're growing up in a household where you aren't getting love, maybe food is the most consistent thing that is giving you that feedback, right? And so I kind of feel like when I started to gain, it was a little bit self-destructive because I wanted to feel invisible. Part of my trauma involved sexual trauma. I didn't want that sort of attention. And it was like, if I gained weight, then I wouldn't get that attention. And that was the goal. So I gained a bunch of weight in my 20s. I lost probably 40 pounds very slowly, not super effectively. And then I gained almost all of it back. At my highest, I was around 220. And I lost all the weight using keto in my late 20s, early 30s, and kept it off for 5 years. And I was like, I did it. I did it. I did the thing that they say you can't do. I won. I'm better. I'm better than this weight problem, right? Not better than other people, better than the weight problem. And I finally have control. But honestly, I was miserable. I was miserable even when I was skinny because I was white knuckling life. I was counting calories constantly. I was annoying to be around because I could clock how many calories were in food. It felt like I had given myself an eating disorder again in a different way, right? It was just this consistent unhealthy relationship with food. And then in 2021, 2020, the pandemic, I gained 10 pounds, whatever, who didn't, right? In 2021, my dad got sick. He has dementia. I had to take over his care. I was in a really stressful place. And that's when I gained all the weight back. When suddenly the most important thing in my life wasn't keeping the weight off, and I had to suddenly be responsible for someone else, that's when I gained it all back. And, you know, I lost it again, but using a GLP-1. I'd done the research and I decided, hey, these medications seem amazing. But at the time I was not employed and they're expensive. So I was like, well, let me try for 5 months to see if I can lose. You know, let me, like, I lost in the past. Let me try. So for 5 months, I counted every calorie. I did everything that I'd worked before. I couldn't do keto anymore because I had a medication that made it so I couldn't do keto. And I lost maybe like 10 pounds of bloat in the first month, and I did not lose past that for 5 months. I was like, something has changed with my body. And now that I'm in the community, I know this happens to many people. Like they actually count calories, they actually do everything right. And it's like the weight doesn't want to leave. And so I ended up getting on a GLP-1. I was on Semaglutide for 5 months, prepping. I got married in the middle of that, and I calculated how much I thought weight I would lose by looking at TikToks of people talking about how much weight they lost. I was within 1 pound for my wedding, and I kind of knew what my body was like at different weights because I yo-yo so much. So I nailed that. And then I stalled out after a certain point. I could not go up on dose because I just get really bad nausea. I get really bad side effects. The side effects were not trivial. And when I was trying to go from 5 to 0.75, I went from maybe throwing up once a month because I have side effects and that's real, to throwing up 3 times a week. And I was like, this doesn't work. Right? So whenever I hear the criticism of compounding that customized dosing isn't important for people, it can totally be the difference between being able to get treatment or not. Because I stayed on 0.5 for a while. I didn't actually customize my dose back then. And I just stopped losing and started gaining weight after a certain point. And then eventually I got on tirzepatide, and it was like, oh, this is the best. It just worked for me. It was like 3 or 4 months, and then I was done. So all in all, I lost around 60 pounds again, and I've been in maintenance for almost a year and a half.
Wow. That was quite the story. And I've even met you in person. Dang, girl. Wow. I think that's so true. And I know you've watched Kat and I talk about it, but like in terms of when you're a kid, like the one thing you can control sort of being like your food. And I think like Kat and I talk about, eating too much. And I don't think we've ever had anybody talk about not eating enough, so I'm really glad like you're representing like that story because I know people have gone through it.
I know other people who've had the same exact situation where they had an unhealthy situation with food where they weren't eating enough, and then it's flipped, and then they were eating too much later in life.
So interesting. It's like, what is going on there? I remember when you and I met, we were like sitting down and I was trying to eat, but my ADHD meds were wearing off. And I remember I was like, and I didn't even know this about you. And I go, do you think it's the same thing of people that struggle with anorexia? And you go, it's the same thing. I was like, I think it is too. Like, what is it? Is it just some people can hang on more? Is it just some people, their bodies are just built different? Like, it's so complex. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I just think that's what it comes down to is it's really, you know what I think the answer is? It's Tylenol. Tylenol is what's causing everything.
Hilarious. You're funny. Funny.
I mean,
so
if you read the side effects, they're pretty bad.
I know. Tylenol is the end of our existence. Kim and Sabina, I caught, it was a post that Dr. Joy made about like a lot of trauma is connected to eating disorders because that's what we could control or not control, right? That's where our obsession started because we can't do anything. We're not being taught, I guess, how to like regulate and kind of regulate our emotions, feel our emotions. But hey, we can do weird things with food. So
yeah. And I had both of my parents grew up very, very poor, and like had in their childhood where they didn't have enough food. So I was in a clean your plate kind of household, and I felt like you carry the guilt of whatever struggles your parents had, kind of innately, and like I have to appreciate that I have food to eat.
Yeah. I totally understand that. My dad grew up with, I would say, like everything, like American dream, everything, not rich person, everything. And then my mom was, on welfare and food stamps. And she used to talk about, like, our whole lives would talk about, listen, like, I was lucky if I could have a tomato sandwich. I usually was having a mayonnaise sandwich because that's what they had. And and so she definitely sort of instilled that in me too, like, you need to be thankful for every freaking morsel, right? And it's not like I'm saying, I tell her all the time, I don't blame you for this. Like, this is clearly very complex, but I think like that piece of when I would put food on a plate, feeling like I was committed to it. Does that make sense? Like, I would be like, it's on the plate and I have to finish it because if not, then it's wasteful and wasteful is bad. And then I would sort of associate like all of those like moral things with the food. Yeah. And that just kind of like continued to perpetuate as I aged,
Yeah, my dad used to, if I had to peel a potato, he'd be like, you weren't peeling it tight enough. That's food we could be eating. Because that's how he grew up. He grew up caring if he was peeling the potato too tight or too aggressively. And he's getting those potatoes.
There's nutrients in the skin.
We just ate the skins. But yeah, I totally get it.
I don't eat the skins. I like a baked potato. I'm just going to say, I'm clearly hungry. I like a baked potato. I like potato skins and stuff, but I don't like when people make mashed potatoes and they put skins in it. I'm like, you're just lazy. Peel those skins off. But now I have a different perspective because I didn't think about the waste. See?
There's a lot of nutrients in the skin. So, yep.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think like, one thing I wanted to understand a little bit more is sort of about like if it's okay, if you're open to it. I think okay. Around like the custom piece. That has been a big eye opener for me. I have struggled personally so much with horrible exhaustion on 12, 5, and 15. And it turns out I can take 12, 5 and I can take 15, but I have to take it a couple days apart. But I can take and I can get to the higher dose where my food noise is controlled and, my blood sugar is good and all that things. But like taking it all at once, like that. It's just, it causes me so much exhaustion. I can hardly function, you know? And so like, I think that it's important for a lot of reasons, like around nausea. I think around any of the other ones. I mean, I know, Kat, did you ever have exhaustion on this? Because I feel like a lot of people have this.
Maybe I did. I don't, but I'm always tired anyway. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm always tired. You know what it is? I could take a nap whenever.
True.
Like I'm ready, and that was before and after. So I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think it's important though. I would love if you're open to it for you to talk about your advocacy work.
Yeah. So I do content on access, really. And sometimes like comparing providers, like I review providers and stuff. And so last week I was in Washington, D.C. with compounders to talk about having improvements for compounding. And so there's a few things with that. First of all, they have a bill about shortages. If you remember when we had the shortage end here, and people didn't know if they were going to lose their medication or access to their medication, or if it was going to be able to be customized. It was a really crazy, anxious time for all of us.
Yes.
And so it's some guardrails around the shortage, because with the shortage, and there was litigation, I went to the hearing and I read all the cases. Basically, the FDA, to determine if the medication is in shortage or not, they used the Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk numbers. They didn't use other data sources because they felt like the manufacturer was the master of their data. And one of the things in the bill that it wants it to do is to, first of all, give, a 180 days grace period after the shortage ends, but also you have to take into account feedback from doctors, patients, retail pharmacies, because it was out of shortage. And I spoke to patients who waited a year to get their medication, to get their prescription filled at a local pharmacy. I spoke to many patients who started on a higher dose because the lowest dose wasn't available. I just think that has a lot more risk than is necessary.
Yes.
Yeah. And then, what I heard from pharmacies, both like retail pharmacies and compounding pharmacies, is when they went to the wholesaler website to order, it was there, it was in stock, but they could order like 1 box or 3 box. And to fulfill orders, a pharmacy might need to order 100 or 1,000 boxes. So it's hard to say where the shortage is today. I've heard that it's still hard to order that, but the reality is that our health system is so complex that there's also situations like Walgreens not always carrying it because of PBMs, and that actually makes it, what can happen is it can make it so that a retail pharmacy, it's unprofitable for them to carry these medications. They're so expensive. If somebody gets a rebate and the pharmacy still paid as if it was going to sell it for $1,000 and they didn't, then carrying those medications is just a risk for them to lose money.
Yeah. But then they want to carry it, not necessarily because they want to offer it to patients, but because they want patients to get all of their meds with them. So like, it's like, not, if a pharmacy doesn't have it, right, then it's like, well, someone's going to be like, well, I know I can always get my Mounjaro at Kroger pharmacy, for example. No dibs at Kroger. I'm just saying, like, they do not sponsor me. I'm open, but they don't. But they're I'm such a host sometimes.
We're open. We're open.
But if they do, right, then people are like, well, might as well get all my things while I'm there. Like back in the day, Sabina, did you follow me back in my days of all of my like speculation around like Walmart and all that?
Yes, but I don't refresh my memory.
So okay,
speculation about Walmart. Gosh, that was like
I'm telling you, I grew my whole platform by just telling people, here's what I think's going on, and then I would go, I know nothing, and I would put like, I am not a professional, I don't know what I'm talking about, like all over the place, and I'm like, but here's what I think. Here's the thing, I'm pretty sure most of it's worked out that I was right the way it worked out. But when the coupon first turned off for Mounjaro, people were losing access, right? When I mean by turn off the first time, because there's 2 times, right? One, it pulled back. It was allowed for everyone that you didn't have to have type 2 diabetes at the time. And then they decided to pull back because there's starting to become a shortage. I'm sure there were other reasons too. They're playing 4D chess, but they pulled back on it. And so we were all in the community, and I'm just kind of seeing everybody freaking out. And I'm like, God, this seems like startup. So my background's in tech startup. So I was like, this is so like try and buy. And then I just started making videos about it. Like, here's what I think's happening. And then I started to be able to like see people on TikTok and like where people were getting it, and they were posting about it, because there wasn't a ton of us, right? There really wasn't at this time. And I started noticing like a lot of people were getting it filled at Walmart, and I was like, oh God, that's a strategic alliance. That's a strategic partnership. They're going to continue to offer and offer that coupon and let them use the OG coupon there until it runs out. And that is exactly what happened. That's exactly what they did. So everybody started going to Walmart. Why? Walmart knew, right? They get all those people in. They're going to get all their meds. They're going to get their groceries, right? Like it is a play for money. It's all a money grab, just like you said, like, it really is. So I think that and then that's why I think a lot of we've seen a lot of, obviously a lot of troubles with the pharmacies, like that are the mom and pop pharmacies, right? That's where I get mine. You know, so and it's great when they'll give it to you and ship it to you and stuff because they just want your business. And I think that that's how they use it. I think it's like a marketing tool because just like you said, they ain't making much from it, if anything,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always made the analogy because it was.
And that's where
Kim did the startup analogy, and I always likened it to New Jack City, and that's it. Cookie and getting them hooked on crack cocaine.
Oh my gosh, somebody
at the
did
Carter, and that's it. Yep.
Someone did comment on an old video where you made that joke, and they were like, "That wasn't very nice." And I'm like, "It was a long time ago. We know more now." Like,
side joke about New Jack City.
Yes, they thought we were being like meansies, but they just don't know us, But we weren't being meansies. It was just a joke, like Idiocracy, the movie. It's like that.
Well, it is because I liken like those pharmaceutical companies.
But that's what it was
like serious drug dealers.
They are. They hook you. And I think that's the thing is like, you want to know a hack to get insurance to cover your GLP-1 prescriptions? Here's the truth. Most people get denied the first time that they try, and insurance companies are betting that you're just going to give up. But you do have rights and you can appeal, not just once, but multiple times. The problem is the process is confusing and it's time consuming. And a lot of providers just don't have the bandwidth to be able to fight through it with you. So that's why I partnered with Claimable. It's an easy to use tool that helps you build expert-backed appeals proven to work. So don't give up on your shot at coverage. Exhaust your appeals. Go to getclaimable.com/plussides to learn more and use code PLUSSIDES with a Z to save.
Want the fastest working GLP-1? For half the price, Ro now offers FDA-approved weight loss injections cheaper. With results you can see faster. Lose 15% of your weight with the formula from Eli Lilly that hits not one, but 2 hormones to curb hunger and nausea. Weight loss faster. Confidence higher. Price cheaper. See if you qualify at ro.co/TV.
There are medicines that can help you and they're great and all the things, but then there are life-changing medicines, right? Like, or life-saving medicines. And to pull that back is shitty. Like, it just is. Like, it's really bad. And that's what was happening. And we were seeing our community just like devastated, right? Like, and it wasn't, and people weren't like, I can't go back because I can't gain the weight back. People were like, I can't go back to living like my brain was. I used to have people DM me that were like, I'd rather, and I'm just going to say, it's YouTube, we can die than go back like I was. And that's because it was
that's how we were so hooked.
Yes. Yeah. Because they were sick. That's what it comes down to, in my opinion. We're sick people that need medicine. We deserve medicine. We should get medicine, and we've got to find a way to like make that happen.
You just can't just yank it out. Yeah. Anyway, we're gonna go on a tangent, and
tangent. That's okay. That's always what the first half of the episode is like.
I'm not gonna do that. We're gonna stay focused.
Yeah. All right, focused. That's not my strength. But that's okay. We can. Okay. So, Sabina, I want to make sure that from that perspective, you feel like you've covered anything that you wanted to say. And we ain't go anywhere, so you can say whatever. I just want to make sure I give you the space.
What at my advocacy work?
Yeah, like anything you want to talk about. Like, I want to make sure we give you the space.
I don't know that there's anything, although I will mention, I forgot to mention this. I got a diagnosis of idiopathic intracranial hypertension. Let me say that nicer. I got a diagnosis of idiopathic intracranial hypertension, which is headaches, in my case, a lot of like vertigo, motion sickness type stuff.
Yeah.
And it's more common in women of fertile ages who are overweight.
Wow.
And there's a strong correlation to that and vision loss. Wow. And so that was one of the motivators of like, I should really lose the weight. Yeah. Even though I didn't have a lot of the other more common comorbidities necessarily.
Yeah.
So I would mention that because it's a little bit rare.
No, I think that's really interesting. I feel like that's what one of our friends had that's been on the show before.
I think so.
We did something similar. And I think too, like a lot of times we talk about weight when we're younger. And I don't know about you, but like Kat, but like I didn't hurt always. Like when I was in my 30s, I didn't hurt. It wasn't until like my mid 30s after I'd had a baby and I regained all my weight from the lap band surgery that everything started to hurt. And that's when like I could feel that my health was declining and the numbers in my blood work were showing that my health was declining, right? Like I could see all of that happening. But I feel like you kind of go a long time and you think that it's okay. Like I'm just in a big body and it's okay.
Mhm.
You want to get to like a place of like acceptance and stuff so you can like, not be miserable and live in this society, and then it starts to hurt. Like what does Dr. Tumor always say? She says,
It has was an expiration date.
yeah, she's like body positivity does have an expiration date.
Yeah. I just start feeling pain. I just start hurting until like
once you start hurting, it's
my 40s. Yeah. So
yeah.
you're right. Like fitness. I worked out a lot. Still work out a lot. And so yeah, you can only do it so long, so much. Or eventually, it does have an expiration. So.
Yeah. What was really interesting for me, it was the first time I lost 60 pounds. I didn't consider myself to be in pain. Right. I was like, I'm young, I'm healthy.
Yeah.
And when I lost the weight, I was like, oh, I actually was in constant pain. I did not realize it.
Wow.
And there were some interesting things like I don't wear heels now, but if I wanted to wear heels, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, I'm in agony.
Oh, for sure.
Right. Yeah. And then I lost all the weight and I was like, oh, I can wear heels for like a day, like hours.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's not ideal. It's not the most comfortable shit, but it's fine because I had so much less weight on my feet.
Yeah.
But I didn't even relate. Like I was like, I'm not in pain until I lost weight and I saw what less inflammation and less weight, everything was doing to my body. And I was like, I was actually in pain constantly.
That's so interesting. I think that inflammation in general and how much pain that causes is such an important topic. And I think that we should discuss why that happens and how GLP-1s treat this inflammation and this pain and obesity with an endocrinologist. What do you think? Me too. Dr. Patil, how are you? Wait, I'm going to try to say it. Dr. Patil, what do we say? Sisodia. Did I do it? It was close?
It was close.
Okay.
As long as you don't sing me like Phil Collins, Susu Studio, I am solid.
That's how I was remembering it.
So I just go by Dr. Patil. My entire staff knows.
Dr.
Somebody calls and asks for Dr. Sisodia, it's my husband because he's the only one. Thank you guys thank you all for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
We're so glad to have you. Yeah, I started following you on TikTok. I can't remember. I want to say some perimenopause stuff kind of popped up. And
that's what it was for me.
Yeah. And I knew I was going to invite you to be on the show. And I was like, and I knew I was going to invite Sabina. And I was like, I was like, I like this one. She's got a good vibe. She's smart. She's like, yeah. So you were handpicked by everyone in this room. We're so glad to have you.
Y'all. I'm excited to be here. And it's, it's been interesting because perimenopause has really become kind of a shift in my work over the last few years. And a lot of it has to do with my own personal journey. So for all of our listeners, a little bit about my background, I'm an endocrinologist, first and foremost. And then in 2020, I got my obesity medicine certification, not because I was necessarily looking to open a practice, but because one of my partners was, and I wanted to be able to support patients. And I felt like, I'm doing enough of this in my practice already. I feel like I kind of know, but it was like opening a whole new world of information for me. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And, I think inadvertently, like when you practice long enough, you kind of figure things out as you go. And so it was just really nice and validating to see that, because the field of weight management and obesity medicine is not really that old, right? Like most of our research has come in the last 20 years. And then with women's health, it's kind of a similar thing. When the Women's Health Initiative came out in the early 2000s, it was like all of a sudden we became ostriches, right? Everybody put their head in the sand. Hormones are bad, la, 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 la. Nobody can have anything. And when I was in my fellowship training, it was probably like 2007-ish. My program director is just a phenomenal human being. And he was very much all about being supportive of his female residents and fellows. And when we sat down to discuss the study, he said to us, he said, I need you to understand that this study is going to have an impact on women's rights, right? And I was like, wait a minute, time out. You mean women's health, right? And he looked at me and he said, no, I mean both. And this is what I'm saying. We are about to take hormones away from the women who fought for Roe versus Wade. We're not going to give them to the next generation. And when you see Roe versus Wade go back to the Supreme Court in your lifetime, you will see it overturned, right? This is 2007. And I was in my 20s. So at this point, I don't know my butt from my head. My hormones are generally working fairly well, right? So I'm like, oh, that's cute. He's a conspiracy theorist. And then June of 2022 rolls around and it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, we totally missed the boat on that, right? And I, when I was in high school, my mom struggled with her health. My senior year of high school, actually, she ended up with an 80% blockage in her coronary artery at 42, which I didn't really piece together because I was 17, 18 at the time. But the longer I was in medicine, the more I realized that something had shifted in her at that time. She started struggling with obesity. There was just a lot of different things that were happening. And so my sisters and I have all been screened for her cardiac issues. So my mom had open heart surgery at 42, didn't heal well from it, because back then they would crack your chest open instead of giving you a stent. And so she's always had chronic pain at the incision site. They didn't really know what was going on with her. So they just kind of rushed her through when they figured out it was her heart. 2 years later, her graft reoccluded. It closed off again, right? Why would that happen for somebody who's doing all the lifestyle things and still struggling with weight and stress and all of these other things? And what I realized now was that she had had a hysterectomy in her early 30s. And Indian women will start perimenopause on average 5 years earlier. And when you go through a hysterectomy, even if you leave your ovaries behind, you will go through menopause 4 to 5 years earlier than women who have not had a hysterectomy, right? So you layer all of that on top of it. And that she's an immigrant woman in this country. She does not really have the tools to navigate what the healthcare system looks like. I just think she didn't get the help that she needed, right? And I wasn't really positive about it until last year when I started to hit perimenopause. And my mom ended up in all of this workup over the years. We found out that she had an elevated cholesterol particle that was genetic called lipoprotein little a. I think people are starting to talk about it more now, but it's highly what we call atherogenic, meaning it will form plaque in people's hearts and whatnot. And so I have been on my own weight loss journey. I'm as much a patient as I am a physician. I have never been a small person. And, I think my sisters are teeny tiny, and I don't even think I was that small when I was born, right? So I've always been comfortable with that. But as you get older, I was listening to the stories you all were sharing, right? Like about your body feeling different and your body starting to hurt. And so in my mid 30s, I kind of made the decision, I'm going to go all in and lose weight and do all of these things. I have a strong family history because I'm Indian by background of heart disease, diabetes, high cholesterol, all the bad metabolic things, right? So I'm going to do everything that I can. And so leading up to last year, I had worked on losing weight. I had lost like 40 pounds on my own, diet, exercise, trying to like dial in all of the things. And I had this lipoprotein little a checked. I had a CT scan of my coronary arteries to make sure I wasn't developing the same blockage as my mom was. Yeah. And the current guidance around this particular cholesterol particle is you check it once in your life. And if it's normal, you never check it again. Really? And I don't know why, but I just had this gut feeling. And I told my primary care doctor, I was like, I'm going to need you to check that again. And she was like, are you sure? Because, all the guidelines. And I was like, I just have a feeling. I just need you to check it again. And sure enough, it had gone from normal to elevated, despite losing 40 pounds, despite doing all these lifestyle things. And then when I went back and I looked at the data around this cholesterol particle, like once I got my head on straight and I stopped freaking out that, heart attack and do all these things, I went back and I started looking at all of the data. And it turns out that there were studies that were done on this. It doesn't respond to diet and exercise. It doesn't respond to statins. No. But there was some data that showed that in perimenopausal women or postmenopausal women, when they had elevated levels of this and they were put on hormone therapy, it actually came down a little bit. Oh. And so in my mind, I was like, is this perimenopause? And I went ahead and tried it, and sure enough, my levels are kind of slowly coming down with starting hormone therapy. So it kind of set me off on this whole journey of, what are all of the things that I'm going to do to optimize my life? I have autoimmune arthritis, which kind of sucks. So you hurt from that. And I've had PCOS and struggled with my weight, right? So all of these things kind of led me to this path of, I really want to advocate for women in midlife, all patients really, because I've spent most of my career doing that, but especially women in midlife who are not getting the help they need, because whatever metabolic disease they have going into perimenopause and menopause is going to get worse, period. Yeah. It's just the way our bodies work.
Yeah. I saw a video like that from you today. It was
like,
it's going to get worse.
And if we empower women to know what options there are, right? And to not have shame around asking for help for whatever metabolic thing that they're going through, we're going to have so many women who are living a better quality of life. And so that's kind of my why, my sole purpose for why I do this work, and why I've kind of shifted gears a little bit. I still see a lot of male patients. I'm kind of in two practices, my private clinic on the side, and then I work for a local health system here. But it is really, it's really kind of amazing. So for those of you who don't know, an endocrinologist is somebody who specializes in hormone disorders, right? And so I will deal with diabetes, thyroid disorders. We have a gland in our brain called the pituitary that I call the remote control of all the hormone signals in our body, right? So I will deal with pituitary disorders, adrenal gland issues, and realistically, I should also deal with menopause, but it was not a big part of my training, right?
Interesting.
The ovaries do stuff. I was trained on how to replace testosterone for men.
Yeah.
Why was the rest of the education not there, right? And I think that is the unfortunate ripple effect of the Women's Health Initiative that came out before I became a doctor.
It's interesting. It's like women's health is so revolutionary, but you've been here just as long, right?
That part, yes, we have.
Here just as long as the men have. What's up?
I was gonna say to Sabina, when I met her in DC, we were talking over lunch about sort of like the system and like these things you're talking about. And she said something like, I think out of everything that I learned when I was there, that I thought was like the most like incredible thing. And like I want to like have her tell you this because I think you'll understand.
What did I tell you?
Oh no, you don't know?
No,
I made a video and tagged you and everything. So Sabina was telling me about like how she thinks that the way things are with obesity, and she's going to do it better than I can, and with the system, that it puts pressure, right? Like because so many people are sick and so many people need access on actually changing the healthcare system as a whole.
Yeah. I think the GLP-1s are a wedge which gets people more involved in their healthcare.
Yeah.
And I think, for people who have been obese for a large percentage of their life, a lot of us have felt abandoned by the healthcare system, right?
Absolutely.
Maybe like a lot of them, the doctor never even told them to lose weight or gave them help with it, anything related to that, or they told them to and didn't listen to them for why it wasn't working, or didn't believe them that their attempts to lose weight worked or not. And so I think when you take someone who's had that experience and you finally give them a medication that is working for them, they become more open to other healthcare interventions for other diseases they might have. And I think, our US healthcare system is so broken, but people becoming engaged through GLP-1s and getting access and seeing how broken the system is around this one medication that everybody is excited about, I think is the biggest opportunity in our lifetimes to actually change US healthcare for everyone for the better. And so for me, that's a big part of my advocacy is like, this is the most important time to be where I am in my life, trying to do what I'm trying to do, which is hopefully have some impact that's positive on US healthcare and healthcare access.
Yeah, I think that is so beautifully said. And I was, lurking backstage and listening to your story, and it is just so compelling. And thank you for sharing that. I think we oftentimes underestimate, or we don't talk to people about what their different eating struggles can be and what that can do to people at a normal body weight, and then how that affects their metabolism to then flip the other way. And so when I was listening to you talk about it, I was actually taking little notes because I had thoughts that were bubbling up around that I wanted to share at some point during this.
This would be the perfect time for that. I'd love that. I was actually just
Okay.
going to ask you about it. Like we
Okay.
have people, right, that are like within our community, plenty of people
Yeah.
that lived in small bodies or smaller bodies, or maybe not like, heavily obese, or however
Yeah.
we categorize it these days, for God's sakes, and they will say, listen, I have food noise. Or I've had people that are like bodybuilders,
Yeah.
or we've had, trainers and stuff on our show that are like, when I am trying to go down a weight class, or when I'm trying to be, or whatever it may be, I am starving, and it's
Yeah.
all I can think about all the time.
Yeah.
And that was why I don't even know. It was so crazy that I just happened to mention that to her. When I was just sitting down, I didn't know anything about it. And I was like, do you think it's the same thing? Like, is it the same dysfunction? Is it the same disorder? Like, what is it that's causing this, and
Yeah.
not necessarily always have to be like in this sort of stereotypical big body?
Yeah, it's it's such an interesting topic to me, because in the Southeast Asian community, a lot of us, our ancestors, not us. I grew up very privileged here, but a lot of our ancestors dealt with famine and with, like we talk about in Ireland, there was like the potato famine. The same thing happened in Southeast Asia. And basically, people genetically evolved to be extremely efficient with their calories, right? So I think when somebody goes through a restrictive eating pattern, they are inducing that same thing. And what that does in terms of your genetics, like which genes it turns on, I'm not really sure. I think we probably need more research on that. But we have like
Really interesting.
decades and decades of documented history on the fact that these populations that have undergone famine will become very efficient. And then you get this concept of what we call, and I hate this term, skinny fat, but it means normal BMI overall, but a lot of central adiposity or central visceral fat, like lots of fat tissue in the middle, a lot of which is inside the abdominal cavity, and creating that inflammatory response that we end up seeing cause diabetes and insulin resistance. And then it just kind of balloons from there. It's easier to gain weight from there. And so I think that there's something that happens in that fasting or famine state that triggers those genes. Which genes they are, I don't know. I think it's but I see it more frequently than anything else. And even for myself, like when I was younger, I think I did like not keto, but like there were so many fad diets when we were growing up, right? My friends and I were going to Miami, so we called it South Beach for South Beach, which sounds so stupid now when you say
but everybody was doing it. I remember South Beach.
Right? But we were going to South Beach, so we were like, oh, we'll just do this and we'll be ready and whatever. But it was, you end up in these like restrictive eating patterns, and I wonder whether we were actually getting enough calories and what the lack of carbs actually did to our muscles' ability to recover. And we know now that our muscles are really what maintain or determine what our basal metabolic rate is. So like what calories you're going to burn just sitting there on a couch. But how do those things change your body and your body's response to be able to handle things? I think we still have a ton of research to do on that, but it's fascinating to me because I feel like I had somewhat of a similar experience. Like I've never been a tiny petite person, but I felt like I didn't really struggle with my weight until probably like the stress of residency hit. And then when you're up all night and those cortisol spikes hit, and then everything just kind of like tumbles out of control, then it became really hard, right? Before that, it was not quite as hard. I could do what I needed to do. And then I look at my Southeast Asian genes and I'm like, oh God. Here comes the train from the corner.
About when you talk about like famine and Southeast Asian genes, there's been a lot of studies on native populations here in the U.S. about the same, with the obesity rates, just physically they're hanging on to more weight than what we would say as average. So I
agree.
Hey Plus Siders, we're so glad that you were able to tune in for part 1 of the episode. Part 2 will be posted next week. We look forward to seeing you then. Have a great week, and remember, you're not alone. It's not your fault. Denied coverage of your GLP-1? Do not quit. That is exactly what insurance wants you to do. You have rights and you can appeal more than once. Claimable makes it simple with expert-backed appeals that actually have been proven to work. Check out the link getclaimable.com/plus-sides and use code PLUS-SIDES with a Z to save. Today's episode is brought to you by Ro, a telehealth platform that's changing the game of GLP-1 access. What sets Ro apart? Ro understands the challenges of navigating insurance hurdles and the skyrocketing prices of GLP-1 medications. That's why they specialize in getting insurance approvals for GLP-1s. And if insurance is a barrier, they go a step further by prescribing brand name Zepbound vials for prices close to those of compound GLP-1s. With Ro, you're not just getting a prescription, you're getting a partner in your journey that's helping you access affordable treatment and guiding you every step of the way. Whether it's insurance approvals or cost-effective alternatives, Ro is here to make sure that you get the medication you need. Visit ro.co/plus-sides with a Z today to see how they can help you take control of your weight management journey with affordable, accessible care. That's ro.co/plus-sides with a Z, making healthcare work for you. Check out the link in our show notes for more details.
Are you interested in understanding GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, or Mounjaro? Then join us on the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, the groundbreaking podcast helping people change their lives one episode at a time. The Plus Sides podcast is a disruptor. We're breaking down barriers, smashing stereotypes, and sharing inspiring stories that'll leave you feeling informed and empowered. Join us every week to learn from doctors who are specialists around GLP-1 medications like Ozempic, Wegovy, and Mounjaro. They'll provide you with science and facts to validate these incredible stories. But that's not all. We'll also bring you the voices of the GLP-1 Mounjaro TikTok community, real people who face the challenges of obesity-related diseases and disorders and discovered the incredible plus sides of GLP-1 medications. Our episodes are filled with heartwarming stories, laughter, and moments of triumph. You'll connect with our amazing community members who are reclaiming their health and experiencing their fullest lives. Are you ready to embark on a journey of discovery and empowerment? Tune in to the Plus Sides, Cracking the Obesity Code, and together we'll change the narrative around obesity and end the stigma. Subscribe now on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and join our incredible community. Let's celebrate the plus sides of life together because every story deserves to be heard. Every life deserves to shine, and everyone deserves access to expert knowledge and medication. The Plus Sides Podcast. You're not alone. It's not your fault.